Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crawford and this is Virginia for Lowriders. Today we're hopefully, I really hope, we are getting some wheel tubs installed on the Mazda. I live in front of a road that everybody thinks is a racetrack. But the other day, well actually this week, I have been cleaning the garage, and I don't know about y'all, but working in the garage, and if there's clutter and trash, I don't know if you can actually see my face, if there's stuff everywhere, for some reason my brain just doesn't work. So I've been spending the last 4 days or so trying to get this place cleaned up. And in that time, my buddy James came by and assisted with getting this thing set back on the ground so we can get some instant gratification, check for clearances, and some kind of motivation to actually get something done. Because I don't know, something about clutter and seeing the same truck in the same spot over the course of months, zero motivation. But motivation has been brought back and we're rambling, so check it out. It is on the ground. Rocker panel is flat on the ground except for the corner because it's all beat up, but bumper touching. We're almost tucking lug nuts here. Last week we came in and messed with the master cylinder and trying to get this fitted right, shimming camber and trying to get clearance for the wheel, and it all worked out. Truck is flat on the ground and I have almost finger room. I'll show y'all. I'll jack it up just a little bit, basically to ride height, and just a tiny bit of lift off of the rocker panel equals like 2 inches of room here. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. It is a good thing I raised the notches. If I didn't raise the notches, the truck wouldn't have laid out. I have just enough room to put those bump stops in there that I bought, and that's it. The frame is flat on the ground. I don't really understand how that works because the truck laid out before. It's kind of strange, but whatever. Look how good this looks. Look at the rocker panel. It is looking mean sitting on the ground. So we have motivation. We have somewhat cleanliness. I didn't even know it. I was cleaning the garage the other day. I was over here in this corner, and then I was like throwing stuff away. There's a workbench in my garage. I didn't even know I owned a workbench. It just came out of nowhere. There was so much stuff over there. I had no idea. But we moved the truck back a couple feet. Give me some more breathing room up here. So now I need to go through, cover the outside of the windows with the weld stuff, jack the truck up, get it on jack stands. Last night I took the original piece of metal that came off the firewall, made up this little guy here. So I need to crawl under the dash, remove the master cylinder again, make this panel fit the wheel tubs, fill in the gap, and then we can start filling in with the trailer fenders that we talked about last week. But we're rambling. If you've never been here before, do the YouTube-y stuff. Subscribe, comment, tell me what you think. And yeah, let's get to work. Stop rambling. Alright, just to give an example, I'll lift the truck up to where the rocker panel, say if I'm floating, that is maybe 2 inches off the ground. And then that's clearance. So even at, oops, going the wrong way now. inch off the ground. Still, plenty of room. I'm happy with this. I didn't think it was going to be, judging by how much clearance I thought I was going to have, but that turned out pretty good. All right, it is Sunday. It is kind of late. I went grocery shopping and did all grown-up stuff, and it's kind of late. I really, really need to manage my time better. I think cleaning the garage really screwed me up this week because it just took up most of my time. And now you can't even tell because of last night. So, last night I didn't do a lot of explanation. I was just in a I need to get this done mode, I guess. So, I went through, ground the paint off of here, same thing on the other side, ground all the paint off the inner fender well, trimmed that big hole out because in order to get the contour that I want, that metal couldn't be there anymore. And then y'all saw me on the time lapse go through and make this piece from scratch. So it flows. I'd like to do a little bit more hammer and dolly work in here where the actual seam is. It's just next to impossible to get in here. Like my hand doesn't fit. I'll probably end up just cutting this out just so I can hold a dolly in there to where I can flatten this edge a little bit more to where it smooths out. It looks pretty good, and it's an inner fender that nobody ever sees except for y'all, but it could be a little flatter. I butt welded from all the way around this edge, so I was able to hold the dolly here, and this is flat. This edge here has a little ripple in it. All of this is going to get seam sealed anyway. It really probably doesn't matter at all. One thing I need to do today, which I seem to have lost it, I have the little circle thing like this side, but it's all jacked up, so I need to make another one of these from scratch that looks identical to this for that side, and then probably just cut all of this out. It'd probably be the easiest, simplest thing to do, and weld in the new piece that I make. But first we're going to make that panel and weld that in. That way they both match, and then I can get the fender wells at least tacked in and start doing all that. I'll explain a little bit more the process, since last night I was just recording on how I get that curve in there. You can do it with hand tools. I used a planishing hammer. It is possible with hand tools, and I'll give a little example of how to do that. So this is everything's from scratch, so the general shape is all that I look for. I don't need anything exact or even close to exact, because it's kind of just a general guide that I sort of follow as I go along. Like, none of this is, I'm not trying to replicate anything. I'm not trying to make it look like anything that it used to look like. All from scratch. So I need a piece roughly this big. So I took this over to the other side, figured that this is generally the shape of the curve I put in the other one to try to make them sort of match. They don't have to be exact. I know I need to add a little bit of length to this side, so just gonna pick a spot. I'm gonna leave it a little long on that edge. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger to accommodate for how much the metal is going to be moved around. So generally speaking, that curve thing needs to start somewhere around here. It needs to end somewhere around there. So that same recessed portion I put on the other side needs to be within here. So I've had these shears. These are Eastwood shears. I've had them for like probably 8 years or so, and they work very well. You can get a Harbor Freight version for, I think they're like $50. You can find them on sale on Harbor Freight for like 30 or 40 bucks sometimes. They work great for sheet metal. They don't ruin either side of the panel when cutting. The only thing is they take out that like 1/4 inch of material in the middle. So you have a nice clean edge that you don't have to worry about. Recently, like a few days ago, I have been looking at these shears since I've been doing sheet metal work, and I've always wanted a set, but they've always been like $400. But somebody in Japan is drop shipping them to America. Like, they don't even have English letters on there, it's all in Japanese, for half the price. They used to be $400 everywhere you looked. These were 200 bucks. These are extremely nice. They waste the material that you're cutting on the one side, but the speed of them, the precision of them is awesome. I obviously don't have that much experience with them, so I gotta learn the tricks of them. But they are so fast. The cut is super, super clean. Thought I had to share that with y'all because I've wanted those for a very, very long time. And they work so good. There's a reason that those are normally $400. And I understand that now. So I figured I'd mention it just in case anybody decides they would like to try to do this, just for sheet metal in general. This is an Eastwood hammer. I don't know what they go for now. This used to be like 25 bucks. It's for sheet metal forming. I have nylon hammers that weigh absolutely nothing, like they're just a couple ounces. These are heavy, and if you can hear that, they have shot in them. I find that they stretch metal a little easier. Everybody sells a version. This is from Summit, this is from Eastwood, and they are made by the same people. All they do is print a different number on there in a stencil. So, for stretching material like this, this is normally you'd put sand in it. I have lead shot in here. The lead shot is less forgiving. It doesn't crater out as quickly, so I feel like I can stretch material quicker with it. I got a block of wood. I have a actual forming, or I had a forming block, and for whatever reason all of the moisture in my garage attacked it and made it mold, and it smelled bad, so I threw it away or burned it or whatever. So I'm using this random block of wood to assist me with this. And all I'm doing right now is stretching this material with hammers and forcing it into the direction that I want to go. I'm going to planish it with the planishing hammer, but you could planish this at home with just normal hammers. It would be time consuming, but you can take a hammer and a dolly, or hammer and a smooth piece of metal and planish it out the exact same way. We're just going to do it quickly with the planishing hammer to try to save some time. I usually use some kind of something to make the hammer slide a little easier. I know some people mix transmission fluid and acetone and all these random remedies, but WD-40 comes in a can. All I gotta do is squeeze the trigger. Alright, after walking back and forth between the planishing hammer and the bench 30 times, I have managed to stretch this material pretty far. I mean, that's at least a couple inches of rise on that curve. And the panel fits in there pretty good. If I get it in the right spot, falls into that curve. Need to trim the firewall. I don't want to cut it out of this because this is actually flat compared to this stuff that's all beat up. When I initially did this, I added this piece and some of this, the tubs that the other guy had in here, and all of the weird stuff that the other guy had in here without taking the entire firewall out last time it was here. I welded to that material, so some of this stuff is kind of beat up. I've planished it out as much as I can, being able to get my hand down in there. The heater box and fan and all that stuff is right here, and there's a bunch of carpet in here. And like I had said in a previous video, all I'm running now as far as wiring is just the wires to the wiper motor, which is a good thing, because when the previous guy, which if I can find it I'll add pictures in, whenever he did his really weird looking tub work, melted a whole bunch of the insulation and just left it in there, melted a whole bunch of these wires, and the blower motor doesn't work. So that's another thing that I gotta fix. Right now the blower motor is pushed back, so keep in mind if you're watching this and you're doing a Mazda, this is not really feasible how far I've pushed this back without moving the blower motor, but I plan on removing it, modifying it, and putting it all back in there together. It'd probably be made out of sheet metal or something. There's some other things I'd like to try that go along with that system, but we're getting off track. I'm gonna lay this in here where it's gonna rest, trim this, probably trim this tub to fit this guy. This curve doesn't match this one yet. I don't want to try to make it, well, perfect world, this would fit this exactly right when I put it up in there. But getting this material to stretch in this weird configuration back and forth on the table is kind of a pain in the butt. So what I'm going to do is basically, since everything else fits up until here to here, all of this is going to get welded and this will get hammered into place. I'm not going to weld it under tension, but I'll basically form it in place to match that guy. So let's get the welder out and start making this thing prettier than it is. I apologize for the buzzing in the background. My buddy came back by again, and every time I hit record on the GoPro, he starts standing again. Every time. I've been trying to like record in and out, but it ain't working. But we got the passenger side welded in. It looks, it's kind of weird on camera because it like picks up the shine of the ground or something. So there's a indentation here. Man, it looks so much wavier on camera. So indentation here, so I contoured it to fit in there. This looks like almost like a ledge on camera, but it's not. This is actually smooth. Just kind of weird how it, whatever. Yeah, passenger side. Looking pretty good. And now they are both, I don't know if you can really tell on the camera, they're both pretty even as far as all that goes. So now, need to fit this guy in here and try and get that thing welded up so we can get some seam sealer on all this stuff. And I ordered paint last night, so after it's seam sealed, I can start painting and run the wires. But you do have some little tabs that I'll show y'all for hopefully hiding the wires more. I'm going through and welding all of the random holes shut. I went through and welded up most of the firewall last night, so I'm going to do all of the remaining stuff that you'll be able to see. Oh, silence. Must be switching sandpaper. But yeah, let's get this fit, welded in, and hopefully move on to the next one, because it is getting late yet again, because I keep doing this to myself because I am not a very smart person. Well, it's getting dark, so hopefully I won't have to listen to that terrible noise for too much longer. So I plan on welding it to the bottom edge. God, it's annoying. Oh, wow, here we go. Maybe he's giving up. Nope, didn't give up. So, I plan on welding this to the lip on the other side of this. So I'm using the face of this to act basically like that is the lip. I am placing this basically right on the edge of the top of this, tracing around it, and I'm going to cut the metal to fit this, and hopefully everything fits in there good. Is that silence? Is he done? So if I put my dial indicator in the middle, I am right even. It's even here, it's even there. Put it here, it sets even. If I just pick up on it just a hair, so it is ready to be welded in. The gap is tight all the way across. Pretty sure I'm probably gonna have to trim part of the hood, but I don't really care. So this will all get welded. This will get pulled down on the corner and welded to this flat piece here. So I'm gonna do that now. Alright, it is getting very late, and I need to get this edited. The noise outside finally stopped after I'm done, of course, so the fenders are fully welded in. I didn't get to seam sealing this weekend because I kind of ran out of time because I don't know what's going on the last couple weeks. But fenders are fully welded in and looking good. This week we'll be modifying this and making that smooth for that harness to come through. I found that little circle thing that I was talking about. So I'm going to remake this, mount it here, smooth all this out, run the harness, and I got these little harness clips that I'll show y'all that are pretty cool. One thing we got to do next week while cleaning this up is install this. I messed with this earlier. This actually is just held on with a little grommet and the reservoir pulls straight out. So I think I might be able to cut a hole in here, install the master cylinder in, and then just put it together in the hole. That way the only thing that you see from the top is the cap and a little bit of the reservoir. And it'll make everything look nice and sort of hidden, I guess. So everything is fully welded on the outside, and the reason I do that is when you look at it on the inside, it's just sheet metal to sheet metal. There is no weld to clean up. The only thing that I do weld on the inside of these is right here, just because I don't feel like laying on the ground to weld that stuff, and it's at enough angle that it'd be easy to clean and seam seal. So all of that's welded up. Everything is nice and even and level and square. We saw in the time lapse, this is how I figure out if everything is even side to side. Just lay this on there. That way I know I have the same amount of stick out, because on these things there's no flat surfaces to measure from. This little tiny edge is probably the flattest thing that I'm going to get out of all of this. So trying to measure in here as much as I can to make it the same as much as I can. It doesn't really work because that side is not shaped like this side. They're completely different. So everything's looking pretty good so far. We actually made progress this weekend. We have things welded to the truck that weren't welded to the truck 3 days ago. So we're looking pretty good. I have to take this out because trying to weld in there with the MIG gun, it just didn't really fit. So there's just a little bit here that needs to be welded. As you can see, all of that is done. These turned out pretty okay. I'm gonna go through and make inner fenders that almost butt up to the actual fender, just to keep trash out of here. That'll be in a later video. But yeah, I need to hurry up and go inside and edit all of this. So again, if this is your first time here, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, likes and whatnot, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. We're gonna be bouncing around on the next one for sure, because my mind has a really hard time focusing on a single task. Like, while I'm doing this, every bit of me wants to stop welding this fender in and trim both of these to match. But it's kind of more important to make the big chunks of progress and then clean up everything else. So there's going to be a lot of randomness in the next video. So check that out, and hopefully next Sunday. Thanks for watching.